Welcome to Every Movie I've Ever Seen. This is a special Fuck You It's January edition, where throughout the month of January I'm going to be talking about bad movies, particularly bad movies that have a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's been a little bit since I did one of these. I'm going to try and I got a list of movies that I wanted to get done in January. I'm probably not going to get all of them done in January, but I'm going to try and plow through the rest of them throughout January. It should be fun. The movie that I'm talking about today is Problem Child. This is probably the oldest movie that I've done so far. Now that I'm off the Netflix and, now that I'm off the streaming movies, or movies that are available on streaming, I'm going to be getting into movies that aren't available on streaming, and they're most likely going to be older movies. This is some comedy about a kid who's, a problem child, and he's bouncing around adoption agencies and orphanages or whatnot. It's just still, again, not very good. I guess they made 2 more of these. I don't know why. I suppose maybe people liked them. The thing that I didn't really think about when I started these movies with 0% ratings on Rotten Tomatoes is that most of these movies, yes, they have 0% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, but that's critic rating. You're not looking at the audience rating. People are dumb. So I wouldn't be surprised if people liked this, but anyone with half a brain is like, this is garbage. So I think this came out in 1990. It's just not very good and not very funny either. It's kind of weird. And it's loud. It's so loud. It's like the kid's like yelling all the time, and he's acting like he's like doing an impression of a stand-up comedian or something. But the movie's just so loud. He's yelling. He's got annoying narration, where he's yelling in the narration too, which is starting to be a thing that I'm hating in movies more and more, as I see this in more and more of these bad movies, is narrating. You had John Travolta narrating Gotti, and I didn't like that. And this stupid kid is narrating this movie, which I don't like that either. And Gilbert Gottfried is in it too, and he's loud in general. And the guy who plays Kramer in Seinfeld, he's in this too. I never really cared for him either. I always kind of feel like he exaggerates or overacts a little bit. He's always seems like he's being a little bit too animated. I don't know if this was before Seinfeld or after Seinfeld, because maybe by the point of Seinfeld, that character is kind of what he's known for. Maybe he gets a little typecast, because he's kind of doing the same thing that he's doing in UHF, which is a much better movie. But I've never seen Seinfeld either. I have no interest in Seinfeld or Friends. I know those are 2 big or greatest comedies of all time. No interest. I couldn't care less about either of those films. Jason Ritter is in this. I think he's the guy in Home Improvement, if I'm not mistaken. I never saw that show either. For some reason, I always get him confused with the guy who was in Star Trek The Next Generation, who does the mysteries of the... not mysteries of the universe. He does the guy in Star Trek, he does something where he tells a story, like he tells 3 stories and 2 of them happened and the one didn't, and you gotta figure out which of the 3 stories was the made-up story. Is it fact or fiction beyond belief? That may be what it is. For some reason, I always get Jason Ritter confused with that guy. I believe that guy, the Star Trek guy, is still alive, and Jason Ritter is no longer alive. But I didn't see Star Trek The Next Generation either. I'm just talking about a bunch of shit that I haven't seen. Seinfeld and Friends and Home Improvement and Star Trek The Next Generation. I haven't seen the original Star Trek either. I haven't seen any Star Trek. I've seen the 3 Star Trek movies that star Chris Pine as the role of Captain Kirk. That's all of Star Trek I've seen. I've heard that most of the new Star Trek, like Discovery and Picard, is not any good, so I'm probably not going to see that stuff either. But yeah, no interest in any of that stuff. Definitely don't plan on seeing any of the sequels to Problem Child. But I feel like of all the bad things you can watch, you know, of all the bad genres, a bad comedy is probably the worst. Because if you get like a bad drama, it's just boring. It's just boring, right? But you get a bad comedy, not only is it boring, it's also not funny. To the point where it can be so not funny to the point where it's like excessively not funny. You know, like some modern comedies are not funny in the sense that they're just like, you know, okay, I get it. And then bad comedies are not funny to the point where it's almost like painful to watch and hear these jokes. You think, did someone actually think that's funny? Because like a modern comedy, you can see how someone would find that funny. You can see the joke that's there. Maybe it's a joke you've heard 50 times before. Maybe, you know, maybe not the most original joke. But you go to something like this and you think, do people actually find this funny? I mean, it's not funny. It's unfunny. I guess unfunny would be the appropriate term. Because not funny isn't exactly the opposite of funny. So I think there's funny and then there's unfunny, with not funny being this kind of like weird limbo middle ground thing. But Problem Child was unfunny. Out Cold, which I talked about in one of my rummage sale videos, is unfunny. Something like Baywatch with Dwayne Johnson is probably not funny, but, you know, not funny at the same time. So, not unfunny. But yeah, that's all I've got to say about Problem Child.